earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise o'er listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dawn has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on. Gotta keep on. Let us march on. Marching on. Let us march on. Gotta keep on marching. Let us march on. Keep on marching, marching. Let us march on.
Gotta keep on marching on and
Let
on
us
and
march on.
on. Amazing grace.
Let us march on. How sweet the sound. Let us march on. I once was alone. Let us march on. But now I'm found. Let us march on. Ooh, let us march.
Let us march on till victory is won. Let's lift every voice and sing. And I love to hear how young people are interpreting that time honored song. We love to bring you that song at the top of the hour on Let's Talk. I'm your usual host, Stephanie Anthony, but today we have our co host, Pastor Cat, leading the charge. Good morning.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning. I'm so excited. This whole month has been a treat. And for all of the listeners, if you haven't had an opportunity to watch, and this is your first day watching, we have been focusing in on Black history. And the Black history person of note for the entire month is yours truly, Sister Stephanie Anthony, to truly name the cheerleader for Jesus. So we've been having conversations with her that triggered joy and thought. And of course, one of the key things that Let's Talk stand on, something worth talking about. So that's what we're doing. We are talking today, and I'm excited to be your co-host and here to have a conversation again with who is Stephanie Anthony. We've heard so many different things. We've heard about who Stephanie Anthony is or was as a young adult here in Baton Rouge. We heard about who she was as a teenager, who she was as a young adult. And so we're still here wondering who is Stephanie Anthony? So my question to you, one of my first questions to you is, so you when somebody says Stephanie Anthony, what do you want them to think, or what would you want them to say?
Hmm. Hmm.
Things to make you say,
That's an interesting question, and I guess foremost, I am a servant. I was bred to be a servant. I'm the oldest of 3 children. And for all of you out there who are the oldest, you know just what I mean. That when you're the oldest child, and it's not just two of y'all, it's more than two. You have the responsibility of serving and guiding your siblings. And so I guess it started off real early. And so I I enjoy being a servant of the people, a servant in the church, a servant in the organizations that I belong to. I actually enjoy being a servant in my neighborhood, but sometimes people get confused and they think that although you being a servant, they think that, well, they think something other than what you are. So sometimes it's difficult to be the servant. Isn't that odd that it's difficult to serve? But you think about, remember when Jesus got ready to wash his disciples' feet and hear Peter grumbling, "Oh no, Lord, you'll never wash me." You know. And before it's over with, he was like, "Oh, wash my head, wash my hand, wash, wash me all over."
Yeah.
But so being a servant is not always as straightforward as you would think. But that's a good question. I don't think anybody ever asked me that. Thank you.
Mm. So you want them the only thing that you want them to note or make sure they get right is that you were a servant.
Well,
That's
you not see you must be in current media. You have reframed the question after I answered it. That's not what I said. But
it isn't.
it's not
It
the
isn't.
only thing. It's not.
Okay.
It's probably the most important thing, because once you put that in your frame of mind, then it seems other things that I do or say, you have a better understanding of how it fits. But it's not the only thing I want people to take home or pack up about me. But it's one.
It's one. It's the most important to you, and that's what's important to all of us, honestly. But the first thing that comes to mind when somebody says something, when you say, well, you get it off the tongue. That is the most important thing to you. It may not be the only thing, but it's the most important thing. And I like that. I would have thought activists. You know, So I hate saying. Let me clear that up. Something that's key in having this discussion is that being aware that it is your words. And it's so important that we, as a group of people, not talk over each other, but allow each other to have the conversations from their perspective. And so the bigger point of what we're doing is to be able to create content where people are able to have a conversation on a platform uninterrupted from their point of view. It's not going to be a bunch of fact checking. It's not going to be all of that, because it's not going to be a platform where someone is supposed to just air out all the dirty laundry. And we're like, we got to make sure we check that. It's just an opportunity for us to really get to know people and all of their layers. What made them who they are? What crafted and molded the soul of this person? So this month is Black History Month, and in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, we are honoring, not just in Baton Rouge, I mean, because she's worldwide. She'll tell you. She's traveled. And even if not in body, oh, come on now, even not in body, through the internet, there are people all over the world that call her mother. So there are certain areas of her life that people have never been told about, have never been exposed to, because they've never given her, and I'm saying her, and you can make this you, the opportunity to be able to just tell their story without somebody saying, I don't remember like that. Well, you don't remember like that because I ain't talking from your memory. I'm talking from mine. So we're having a conversation today with Sister Stephanie Anthony, and I am very excited to continue to talk with you. One thing that I always think about when I'm having a conversation with different people, you look, especially if you've known them for years, you look through the pictures and you see, as a little kid, one of the pictures that I really love is a picture of you in a stroller. And you just look so happy. You're just like, yay, I'm in a stroller. I'm outside. It's cool. So what brings you joy?
Eating.
Eating. So
Hot beverages.
what hot beverages? So what's your favorite food? If you had to, if they said, this is your last meal, this is the last thing your lips will touch.
Guess what? I got to tell you something.
I'm
Way
listening.
back, there were, I'm not a gambler, but
Okay.
I belong to an organization that back then they used to do bus trips, to raise money. And they did a bus trip to Mississippi to a casino, because we didn't have casinos here in Baton Rouge. And so I think the bus trip was like $10, and they said when you got there, you would have $10 worth of credit, on,
wow.
well, I didn't know how it worked, but they gave you like a little ID card. It had $10 on it, and you could go and put it in the slot machines, or you could go to the buffet, which was $7.50.
Oh, wow.
I walked in that buffet. Oh my goodness. It had everything, all kind of seafood, you name it. And, I'm a lover of chicken. I could eat chicken every day.
Really?
And for you chicken lovers that love them, alive, I like them alive too. And I've had, Bantam chickens. I've had.
So what's a Bantam chicken?
A Bantam chicken is half the size of a regular chicken, and they all of the subcategories of chickens they have in the regular size, they have in the Bantam size. But in more recent years, they have done crossbreeding and stuff, and so they have very unusual looking Bantams with feathers on their feet that look like like boots, and little tufts of feathers on their
I'm
head.
glad I asked that question because I assumed it was a breed and not like they call dog designer dog. So it's not like a mini and a standard, and that's more what you're saying. It's in it's in the snout, it's schnauzer, it's boxer, but it's the mini or standard or smaller size of that particular
I didn't go
breed.
to school in agriculture, but
Yeah.
I
just know
I
chicken.
like chickens. I like the way they go around. I like the way they hunt, and I lived in the country for a while.
You, city girl, lived in the country?
Oh yeah.
Where?
Alligator Bayou.
Where is that?
Alligator
Where is
Bayou
Alligator Bayou?
is down Bayou Paul Lane, in the St. Gabriel area.
St. Gabriel.
It's
Okay.
a part of East Baton Rouge Parish, actually. But most people think that it's a part of Plaquemine, because that's the big town that people would catch the ferry to go to. So
the big town they would catch the ferry to go to. That don't sound like a big town, but okay. I'm not talking about y'all. I'm just saying. So, Alligator Bayou.
What
country.
about it? That's where I lived. And
Okay.
down the road, there was a family, and my name's Stephanie, and the lady of the house, her first name was Stephanie. I was black Stephanie, she was white Stephanie. Anyway, they had
Not Stephanie A or Stephanie G. Just
they
we
raised
went straight to Crayola.
they raised horses
Oh wow. Okay.
and parakeets. And but they had friends that raised all kind of things. And we were new to the neighborhood, and I can't remember how we met, but they lived down the road, and they had some bantams, and they had a friend, if memory serves, that had been in showing her bantams, but she was
Wait.
tired. She was tired of bantams and wanted to go to something else. And Miss Stephanie was she had enough bantams, because although she had bantams, parakeets were her specialty. And I had never seen parakeets in the wild flying around. They raised them in the barn with the horses. Yep, the parakeets had nests and families, and they just they lived a bird life. And so
I have so many questions, but I will let you continue.
so the friend gave me her bantams,
Okay.
ribbons and all. They're blue ribbons. They had blue ribbons, white ribbons, pink ribbons. They were award winners.
Show chickens.
Show bantams. And they were all kind. They had the kind with the little feet, and little look like boots on. They had the kind with hats on. They had all
Boots with the
kinds.
fur. Boots with the feather.
Out of feathers. Yeah, their feathers. And
Yes.
so I could go off into so many stories at this point, but just suffices to say that I, had them down at my place, and they laid eggs, but they did not like a series of things happen, and they didn't like to be caged up. So I let them free, and they would, build their nests out. They would sleep in the trees, and bantams can't fly they can't fly high. They can fly about a mile, maybe half a mile.
That's pretty
Low,
far for a chicken.
to between before
That's the
they,
reach up and grab chicken. Thank you. Thought you was getting away. No.
they fly best at about waist high. Or
Waste that.
mine did. And
Like, where you
for
going, you
those who
dusty
do
you?
not know, Catherine Anthony, Pastor Cat Lecole Threats
Oh my goodness.
is my oldest daughter. And her job back then was to go and gather the eggs, because like I said, I eventually just let them loose. And they would, her job was to go and find the nest, gather the eggs, and bring them on back in the house. Well, one day I was standing on the back porch. She was kindergarten age. I was
Yes.
standing on the back porch, and there she had gotten a basket full of eggs, and she was woody-do coming on back. And I saw this bantam hen flying like a dive bomber.
Waist high.
Going straight for Pastor
Letting you know
Cat.
how short I was. Okay. This is about
Straight
at
for
best waist
Pastor
high.
Cat.
At best waist high.
And I was trying to get her attention because she was very happily coming along. And I
It was
started
bringing me
hollering,
joy.
Catherine, duck, duck.
Goose?
She didn't quite understand what I was saying at first
I'm telling
until
you.
the hen made the first pass. And she missed it and hit the ground. And then Catherine got to running. Eggs. She wasn't worried about the eggs. She
Nah.
knew then she
Nah.
was under attack. She made
Under
it in.
attack.
She made it in without getting picked. But bless her heart.
I still
That
eat
was her
chicken though.
job. And over the years, I'll tell you what happened with my Bantams. They lived a very happy, but somehow kind of short life because the predators realized that, well, the first thing I
Bantams taste
noticed that
good.
was that I would come and there was one hen that loved to make nests over by where you drove by the driveway, kind of by a
Mhm.
tree by the driveway. And she had just a big old cachet of eggs. But I said, well, we're not going to mess with her eggs because I don't know how long they've been there. I didn't notice when they first were there. This is a chicken show.
Hey, do you like chicken? Welcome to Black History. No, I'm just joking. This is a good story. Keep talking.
Anyway,
I'm entertained. I am.
well, all right. After I started noticing that she had like 12 eggs or more. When I
12.
started noticing that it was like 10, 8, fewer and fewer. And it hit me eventually that there was a predator of some kind taking her eggs. And she eventually hatched out about 6 of them, you know. Uh anyway, bless her heart. Look, I got to show you something that Sister Claudia is saying. Um,
Yeah.
she
That's
says,
like the chicken on
no
that
shit.
show. He's a
Huh?
it's a cartoon. He's like, I'm a chicken hawk. And he's always saying that. You're like, wait a minute there, boy. Wait a minute there, boy. Nah, that's how the older mentor is talking to him. So that's what she's saying. I'm no chicken, I'm a bantam.
Oh, all right, all right. Anyway, to get the story down, I ended up somehow predators got, I thought, most of the they got the roosters. And
Yeah.
so I ended up with just hens. And Mr. Walker, that was the family down the road with the mother named Stephanie Walker. One of Mr. Walker's roosters started every morning he'd be like cuckoo cuckoo, and you could hear him getting closer and closer. And it took him about 3 days to make it from their farm to our place. And once he got there, he would get him a harem of hens and go back to his place. And then I guess he rested up a few days and started back again on that journey.
Because he was flying, right?
He was flying.
And what you say, they only could fly about a mile. Waist high.
Half a mile. Maybe.
Gravel road.
That's right. It was a gravel road. They wouldn't have been walking on the road anyway.
I'm just saying, that's what I'm like. No, but trying to fly, if a car passes dusty, it's just It's a lot. It's hard for a chicken. It's hard out here
Anyway,
for a chicken.
slowly but surely. And I called Mr. Walker and I said, yo, you got a rooster coming down here stealing my hens. And he was like, okay. He said, I think I can I can distinguish your hens from mine. I'm gonna gather them up and bring them back. And I said, no, don't do that. I said, because then
He
he'll
right.
have to start all over. And I don't have a rooster. All the roosters got, I don't know, all the roosters disappeared.
They wasn't no real thug. They couldn't. Them hips like, I told you don't go down there talking that noise. But go ahead. R.I.P. Bring it out.
Anyway, I figured that if he had the tenacity to get their attention, 3 miles down the road, and get there and they ready for the journey, and they stay where he put them while he come back and get
They
some
was
milk.
tired. They were like, nah, I ain't going back down that road. I almost get hit by a rock, dust. I'm still wheezing still from there. I'm gonna stay right here. Food is good.
So anyway, Mr. Walker and Mrs. Walker ended up with all my chickens, and I was cool with it. Years passed by because Faith, the youngest one, wasn't even born. Years passed by. I was in Baton Rouge, living in Baton Rouge, and I had a house in the Prescott area. And I was just sitting down talking one day. We were talking about presents, what kind of presents I liked. And Minister Faith was then baby girl Faith, asked me some questions, and I started telling her about when I was little. Every holiday back then, people used to give kids live pets, like baby alligators, baby turtles.
Baby alligators.
Yeah, that was very common.
Okay.
Baby turtles,
No,
they
no,
would
I'm just
paint something cute on the turtle's back.
oh.
Baby ducks and baby chickens. And I explained to her that my mama never gave me nothing like that and didn't allow me to have it. And how they didn't usually live that long, the little baby creatures, because they were giving them to children.
City kids, probably.
Yeah, they were city kids. Yeah, I grew up in Eden Park. So coming Easter came, she surprised me with a shoebox with 2 little chicks in it. Now, my dad and his generation called chicks biddies. And I remember my grandmother, Maman Corrine, who eventually lived to be 106 years old, but back then she was much, much younger. She would take the baby chicks in the wintertime and put them in a box behind the wood stove to keep them warm. And she would give them grits, dried grits. And grits are actually cracked corn. It's ground up corn. So she would give them that to eat. And when they got big enough to survive out on their own, she would let them outside, or when it was warm enough and they were big enough. So I went back on my, instruction, and, fed them, and they grew big. And my dad, bless his heart, I was like, look, these chickens still living,
What am I do?
Right. I had them living.
I ain't playing a funeral, not a condo in celebration. Okay. Anyway.
I had them I was raising them in laundry baskets. Yep. I didn't have they had outgrown the box, box size.
What you had 2? a basket on a
I put a
basket?
basket
And
on
they
top of a basket and,
okay.
and like a big bird cage that sat on the floor. You know, a
Hmm.
basket, a round basket on top of a round basket. Made to me it looked like a bird
Oh
cage.
yeah. Okay, I got it. Okay. Yeah.
So
Okay.
my dad uh, made a stand out of milk cartons. He made a wood frame, and in that wood frame, he had two milk cartons, the plastic milk cartons, like they still make them today, and they
The
still,
crates. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So he put he put pine needles in it, and he brought his dog yard that was too small for his dog. He trained shepherds. So he brought this dog yard, it's made like a hurricane fence, four sides, but it was like maybe 5 feet by 6 feet or something like that, maybe.
It was nice size. Yeah.
And so that became their home outside. And they grew, to from biddies to right now I can't think of the names of each pullets to I can't think of the next um phrase of chickens. But anyway, I had this yard
Senior
man
chickens.
from Mississippi.
Oh
I
no.
had gone and that morning I used to wake up early in the morning, get a cup of coffee, and walk around my yard. And that morning I got up, walked around my yard with my coffee. Before I went back inside, I gave my chickens their water and their by this time I'm buying I'm buying chi- chicken chow, which is made by the same people as puppy chow and all the other chow.
It's actually called chicken chow.
It was then.
No, I'm.
Yeah.
This is news
I
to me.
I
I
had to think,
didn't know.
yes,
Well,
and it had a chicken on on the outside of the sack, you know. Yeah, it was made by Purina.
wow.
So
Okay.
anyway,
Didn't know.
um, and I would buy it from the hardware store where the chickens that had sold to my daughter, my
Oh,
baby's
okay. All
girl.
right.
Anyway, this yard man from Mississippi cut my yard and I was like, okay, he say yard's done. And I was like, oh, okay, let me get your money. And I reached him the money. I didn't have my shoes on. I reached him the money. He said, oh yeah, one of your chickens was dead. I say dead? Because I had just seen the chicken 2 hours earlier. He said, yeah, you must have forgot to give him water. I forgot to give him water. They was just fine and I gave him water this morning at 6:30. Anyway, I said, wait a minute. I said, let me go out there. And he said, oh, I threw him over the fence. They threw him over the fence and he was gone. I went for weeks looking over the fence. I never smelled a smell, never saw a swarm of flies, never saw no feathers, nothing. And I fired him because it hit me. That man took my chicken. So the one that was remaining grew to be a beautiful red, what do they call them? Red horn chicken that we named Peck. And Peck lived for 7 years, you know.
A long time.
And every
To
time anybody
the point he got chicken amnesia and was cock-a-doodle-doodle at the wrong time.
shut up. Anyway, anybody that visited men would always say, "Ooh, he's some big. When we gonna have him for dinner?" And I'd be like, "Dinner? He's a pet. That's Peck." Anyway, that's the life of my chicken stories.
That's the life of your chicken stories. Well, that story originated from uh, what brings you joy. And you talked about food, and then you talked about, and then we ended up on the Bantam chicken story. And so going back to that question of what brings you joy, in the layer of it is what brings you joy as a whole. What smells brings joy to you? What seasons brings joy to you? What sounds brings joy to you?
Well, chicken is one of my favorite things. As I said, I can have it every day. Fried,
Yeah,
barbecued, stewed,
sauteed,
all of it.
smothered,
And
covered,
I love
skimmed.
to watch chickens. In fact, whenever I have fresh vegetables or I'm peeling something, or I always feel the same way. Man, I wish I had some chickens to throw this out to, because they will really enjoy this. Um, so chicken, and I like the sound of them. In fact, one of my ringtones is a rooster crowing, and people know me by, I'm in physical therapy now, and they'll say, where the lady with the crowing rooster. That's, I like the sound of them, and I like the looks of them, and I like the taste of them. All right, so that
Let's just say the look, the taste, the sound, all of that.
right.
So
So um music wise, I love gospel music. I love gospel jazz. I love instrumentals. Um, I love the classics. When I was a little girl, I wanted to play a musical instrument, and I was over at Capitol Elementary, which is in Eden Park. Well, they have a Capitol now. It's not the original Capitol, but having said that, I was they had a man to come to the school, and he was going to be our band leader. And
okay.
he came with a group of instruments. I need to back up a little bit and tell you this. Um, President Kennedy was in office, and he
Oh
had
wow.
a
Okay.
program where he wanted to bring cultural experiences to underprivileged children. And so they made an arrangement with the Baton Rouge Symphony Orchestra that they would do a concert for children. And the concert that they did was Peter and the Wolf. And all of us little kids, for 10 cents on a Saturday, we got a chance to go to this auditorium for this concert. And they saw the 10 cent was so it would pay for the school bus driver that was going to drive us to the concert.
And what year about was this?
Let me think. I went to school in 1959. So this was about, I don't know, 62 or something. If
In
you
the
look
60s.
up when, President Kennedy took office, it was one of the first things that he implemented was stuff for poor kids,
Okay.
experiences for poor kids. So anyway,
The 10 cent went to the driver.
yeah, that's what it was supposed to be. And there was not, they didn't have the crossing guard out there. I walked to this school by myself because it was on a Saturday. And I never forget trying to cross Capitol Avenue, which is now called Gus Young Avenue. And I had never crossed it by myself. I was standing there like,
There it is. If you're wondering, if you're just joining and you're trying to figure out what are they talking about, they chickens, now it's a bus. What is going on? It's Black History Month, and the person that we're highlighting this entire month is Stephanie Anthony, and we're sitting and just having a conversation, rolling back, trying to see who exactly Stephanie Anthony is. all of her. You know, we know her as being the host with the most. We know her as being the cheerleader for Jesus. We know her for her work with the environment. We know her for being an activist. We know her for being an organizer. But do we really know her? Did you know she liked chickens? Did you? Did you know she had a chicken ringtone? Did you? Well, we talking today. We talking about who? Stephanie Anthony. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm enjoying the conversation. I know you're wondering what is happening, and we just took a moment because of the chicken to break down what we talking about today. We're talking about something that really means something, if not to you, but to me, Stephanie Anthony. She's absolutely amazing, and we want to know more about her. So join the conversation. You have some questions you want to know? Maybe you could type it in the chat. We might ask, we might not. You don't know unless you type it. Let's talk about something that really means something today. We're talking about Black history. We're talking about Stephanie Anthony, who's, to me, a local celebrity here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and not just locally to Baton Rouge, but all over the world. She's very humbling, very humbled, and doesn't want to actually admit it, but people know her all over the world, boo. Okay? She not just local, she everywhere. So you were telling us about
put a pin in that
crossing.
though, because I want to talk a little bit about Pakistan.
Okay.
But I was just telling you about the symphony, the
Yes.
Baton Rouge Orchestra, and
Hmm.
they began with letting with each section of the orchestra letting us hear themselves. I mean, you know, like the French horns, the oboe, the instruments that you ordinarily wouldn't hear and distinguish. You know, now some, you know, things that, like, for example, they'd have the saxophones playing. Well, you know, the kids knew that saxophone, you know, but they might not know the harp or some other Pakistan calling. um, so um,
How many people can say they're getting calls from Pakistan? None of y'all. Anyway. All right, we're talking about something that really means something. Stephanie Anthony is our focus this month in Black history, and we're taking a stroll down memory lane just to get a little more intimate with Stephanie Anthony, to actually get to the root and the core of who she is, the fiber of who she is. She's more than just this one thing. You can't put her in a box. Did you know she raised chickens? Did you? No, you didn't know. Not till today. And did you know she crossed herself across the street on Gushyoung Avenue? Did you know? No, you ain't know that. No, you learned it today though. Yeah.
anyway,
So you're
it was a beautiful experience,
yes.
and um, I came back very, very excited about it. And my dad worked at Corn Myers. I don't know if you remember. No, you probably, yeah. Corn Myers still existed when you were a young person. But
You talking to me?
Corn Myers
Yes.
uh, was a furniture store, a high quality furniture store where my dad worked, but he didn't work in the furniture department. He worked in the appliance department, but he was exposed to good furniture. And I believe that's why I have such a love for real wood, you know, because he knew woods very, very well. He knew good furniture. And to make a long story short, he heard my enthusiasm about this, and he bought a hi-fi. A hi-fi is a sound system back then, a sound system, and it was the newest thing out. And it was in a wooden box. It had a turntable, speakers, and put out a magnificent sound. So he bought this. With it came um, a box of records of the classics, Beethoven, Bach, Tchaikovsky, all of those. And because the hi-fi was so innovative for its time, you could put a stack of albums on it, and it automatically would drop a album would drop down, a LP would drop down, and the needle would start. And when that album was finished, the needle would return, another one would drop by, and then that would play through. So you could have continuous all day music. And
Wow.
I he loved the classics. He loved music. And so did I. After, being exposed to the classics, the greats, the great composers of the world. So I enjoyed it immensely, and I still have a very eclectic kind of taste in music. I love instrumentals of all kind, and believe it or not, I love jazz. I love gospel. I love gospel jazz. But I love gospel hip hop. Um, I love international music.
Mhm.
Music from around the world, and I love old school R&B.
All right now. Who's your favorite artist?
I don't know that I have.
Clutching what would be a pearl, but it's not.
Who's my favorite artist then?
I don't know. I'm
No,
asking.
I'm saying I don't know that I have a favorite artist. Well, I'm gonna
Ever
tell you
been one when
something.
you were younger?
Not,
All right, here it
no,
is.
no. I used
Oh,
to, you know, just love the music. And it got to a place, I got to a place in my life that you couldn't just sing to me. You had to live right too. I couldn't receive the music if it was from somebody that, for example, without going back, and some folks are going to remember that there was a Motown artist that was very smooth, very wonderful singer, but and he did duets at the time, and it came out that he used to beat his duet partner, who was had a wonderful song. And at first I didn't believe it, but then they showed pictures of her going on concert and looked like she had been in. It's like somebody had been punching her in the face. And I had been the target of a bully, and so I just couldn't receive his music anymore. I was young too. When I say I was young, I at least had to be no older than junior high when I heard about this. And so quickly it dawned on me that I couldn't like your music if I didn't if your life was raggedy. I just couldn't buy in. I couldn't receive it. I couldn't enjoy it. So things started narrowing for me. Uh, and I hate to be judgmental, but that's just the way I am. So I can't tell you, I just love any particular artist. You know, I I like the genre, and some songs I like.
I mean, there's no pressure behind that. It's just shocking to not, normally somebody just got one, they just that's it. But one thing that came out in that discussion was saying that you were uh targeted by bullies. And so, in an era where people don't they talk about it, but they don't talk about it, um, just looking at you and knowing all that we know about you, I would not think, yeah, you was bullied.
Ah!
So, what? Do you want to talk about that? We don't have to say names or anything, but you could say, your perspective of it, and encourage people, and maybe this is a fiber that created the fighter in you, not physical, but so that's interesting to hear.
I really don't want
So,
to. I'm not over it yet. Not
oh,
really.
okay.
Um,
Well,
Not really. But I will say this. I was in a kind of bad position because I didn't do this person anything. So it wasn't no way to correct it and try to make them not be mad at me. It wasn't about me. They were just
mhm.
um caught up in circumstances. They that this person had an abusive parent,
Mhm.
and he just didn't know how to act amongst people. He just threw his weight around and beat up on girls. And
I like that you said that you recognize it might have not been then
I
that
recognized it then because everybody in the neighborhood was scared of his daddy because his daddy was crazy. I won't
that's
say
not
he
what I was
was
gonna say.
crazy, but he was really out there. So far
That's not
out
what I was gonna
there
say.
that people who grew up, will know what the situation was. His kids, and he had a bunch of kids, used to dig holes under the house. Back then, our houses were on uh, pillars, little pillars that held them up, um, and it would be a space between the flooring of the house and the ground, and they dug holes, looked like graves, and they would when he came home, or if he came and got drunk, and you hear them screaming and scrambling because they were trying to get down. He was too big to get under the house like them, and they had dug those holes deep enough for them to be able to hide face down in that hole until he went on. Um, so he terrorized them. He did things that kind of terrorized the neighborhood, and I never told my parents because you say I might not have known back then, but I did. I didn't terrorize my. I mean, I didn't tell my parents because I knew that it would have been. My daddy was like a little bantam. He didn't know his size. He would have been.
He didn't fly above the knees.
He would have been on it. It would have been bloodshed, and I knew that
Well,
about his
well,
son
I'm
messing with my daddy's daughter. That would have been terrible. So
so I want to clear something up. I want to be very clear. I'm saying this in a way of revelation, because some people are trying to question, why me? Why am I being bullied? What did I do? Is it my hair? Is it my size? And you to say with such clarity that I realize it wasn't me. It wasn't nothing that I could do to make it right. It wasn't nothing that I could do to ease the situation. It was self-inflicted, and I was just a victim. Uh, that's big.
now I
You
made
know,
it. There was one I could have mitigated a little bit, but I wouldn't run. I wasn't gonna. I wasn't gonna. I don't know why. Maybe that was some of my daddy off on me, but I wasn't gonna run. And he would tell my best friend if she ran, he was gonna get me, and she wouldn't tell me nothing. That girl ran. She, I found out the
well,
next day. I'd be like, "Where my
look,
girl? She be
you like, well,
gone."
Stephanie ain't gonna run, so I'm out. Yeah. So
and
I mean, that's just a.
but God will send you somebody, and there He sent me two somebodies. A guy that lived on my street, and a guy that lived two streets up. The guy that lived two streets up was the smallest. He was small, he was dark, he had little hands, but he could fight. And everybody called him by his initials, JP. And if the bully, I almost called his name, started with me before we got to our street, before he got to his street, he would just jump in. He ain't say nothing, no warning. He just jumped in and started punching on him. And that would give me time
To
to
run.
get on home, but I didn't run.
Mom like, I'm just gonna walk. He like, run, making this fight longer. Run.
And nobody,
Like,
you
I'm
know,
just gonna
nobody
snatch
wasn't gonna
cigarettes.
stop back then. Not stop
I'm
a
a
fight. They
lady.
made a
I don't
circle.
run. I got on a skirt. I'm just glad to hear that be
The
said,
other
because I
person,
do believe that people need to, in this time, need to hear that, bullying is not new. Bullying is something that has happened over time, and your aunts and your uncles and your cousins or your grandparents may be a ear that you could talk to, not to necessarily be a sounding board. What is a sounding board? Somebody that you could just talk about what is happening, not to say I need you to, no, I don't need you to intervene, I just need you to listen, so that they can pour something back into you. And today, what you poured out to me, if people were listening, they would be able to have a better understanding of, it's not self, don't, it's not you. 99.9% of the time, the bully, you didn't do the bully anything. It's something like Sister Stephanie said. It's deeper layered than that. This child that was being the bully was being bullied at home, and then watched bullying probably throughout generations, who knows how long. So thank you. I know that was difficult to share. I know that you said that you're still not over it. But I know that there is healing in conversation. And that's the point. We're in Black History Month right now. We're highlighting Sister Stephanie here in Baton Rouge. And of course, we're on the internet. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. So this will be able to be played and seen all over the world. So, of course, on Let's Talk, we always try to make sure we're talking about something that really means something. And, we're talking about Black history. And within our Black history, there are things that you're going to experience. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be things that drive you, there's going to be things that mold you, make you, break you, chip you. But before we leave this month, we wanted to make sure that we highlighted all of a person. And the person we're talking about today and this month is Stephanie Anthony. I'm so excited about this conversation. And we were just talking about, she mentioned about a bully. Who would think? That she would have been bullied, so don't think it's just you. A lot of people get bullied, but don't focus hard on whether it's something that you need to change or it's something that you need to do differently. Pray for that person. Make sure you have a conversation with somebody about it. Don't just keep it to yourself. Thank you, Sister Stephanie, for sharing that very intimate part of your life. And that drives me to the next question, which is, what drives you?
Before you, and I know we're just about out of time, but before you go to the
Yes.
next question, I just want to say that um, my other hero, I said there were two guys. My other hero was Lionel Harris, who is still alive and is still my hero. He just grew into an outstanding man. And back then, um, he would come to my rescue, and he said, "You want to fight somebody? Fight me." And I was just, he lived across the street, and this guy was his friend, but he didn't believe that he should be out there beating on me, so he would jump in, beat him up. They go blow for blow for blow, and Lionel always won. which made the other guy be like, and eventually, the more Lionel would come on and come home, because I went straight home. Whereas, the boys, they got to stop and play and have fun.
I'll be the tomboy. I'm like, where y'all going after school? You know what I'm saying? I'm just one of the fellas today. I'm gonna watch y'all. Y'all about to go play baseball?
They
Y'all about
didn't
to
play that
football?
back then. In the
Street
60s,
ball?
girls,
Dust ball?
girls with girls, boys with boys. They didn't
I got that.
play that. They would tell you in a hurry. They sent all their sisters home. Go home. you know.
Like, you sending us to the wolves, man. One of y'all gotta protect us.
The sisters was rough. I didn't have no brothers. See, and I'm sure you realize what it's like, if because I'm sure that you are kind of rough, tough alligator bag. But but if the bullies knew you had somebody rough on your side, they'd go try to find an easier target that they didn't have to worry about. I was the oldest and I had no brothers. So I was a prime candidate to be bullied without repercussion. Having said that,
I'm glad you shared. I know that was, again, difficult for you to do. You mentioned that before. We're in Black History Month and we're focusing on Stephanie Anthony, who is the host here of Let's Talk. And we really have really enjoyed these different conversations to really get an intimate background about who Stephanie Anthony is. So that was the question, was based on bullying. And we found out today that Sister Stephanie was bullied, and not only bullied, just a lot. And she had two great people that were her little guardian angels. And we thank God for them, and thank God that He protected them, because it could have been really bad. Listening to the story, hearing the background of the person that was doing the bullying, finding out that they had issues at home. So they had no peace. There was no peace at home. There was no peace at school. There was no peace, walking. Is this no peace? So a person that has no peace is surrounded with issues. And of course, thank God that Sister Stephanie was covered. She had some really good male friends. Those female friends, on the other hand, were questionable, especially the ones that never said anything about if they don't catch you, they gonna get them. So they knew the heads up to run. Yeah, somebody could have shared that information with Sister Stephanie. But anyway, we're talking about something that really
in
means
elementary school. She learned, better by and by.
Did you?
But those two guys, I'll always remember for their gallantry. JP has gone on home to be with the Lord, and the bully got shot as an adult by a teenager. So he came to a violent end, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. But again, this whole entire month, we have been having conversations with Sister Stephanie, the host of Let's Talk. You've been listening through either Facebook or YouTube, and we appreciate the likes, the thumbs ups, the comments, and just know that there is more to Sister Stephanie than what you see. And that's what we're doing. We're pulling back those layers. We're having those conversations and finding out interesting things that make you laugh, things that make you think, and things that overall will make you a better person. Because I believe in every conversation, you should take something away. You should give a person room to talk, to be able to express themselves, to be able to have a moment of just self-reflection, or either just a moment to look back in history and just look back in time and have those moments of awe, because we often get so busy that we don't have or take the time to have just simple conversations. Just ask simple questions. What brings you joy? What smells bring you joy? What foods bring you joy? What seasons bring you joy? You have to think about that, because most people, they just go on with their day and they're really not concerned about that. They ask you how you're doing, but they're not really concerned. We are concerned about how you're doing. And the only way to be concerned about our people especially in Black History Month, is to actually have these conversations. So we kicked it off here. Let's talk because we like to talk with Stephanie Anthony, the host, and we're having that conversation about who she is, what she is, how she became who she is, and what are her plans moving forward. I'm glad you joined us today. This is a continued conversation. What you heard today is not the end of it. I know that Sister Stephanie wants to leave us with some words of inspiration or something today. So I'm not going to overtalk, but I'm just excited that I had the opportunity to be the host today. I'm excited that I got a chance to learn more about bantam chickens, bullies, and how um, when the president when President Kennedy got into office, he was interested in people that were less fortunate and giving them something that will leave not something to fill their stomachs, not just something to put something in their bank accounts. One thing that I always say is make memories. And he did something that made a memory in a child's life that they're now in their adulthood still reflecting on. So that's very, very, very good to hear that people even then, with everything that was happening in the '60s, was interested in bringing a less fortunate child joy. Sister Stephanie, I'm gonna turn the mic over to you.
Well, I thank you for this opportunity. I'm not sure that the conversation went as originally planned, but I am very happy to always express my gratitude and to just share my time coming up poor. And the joy of life is not always in things. Sometimes it's in chickens and music and walks home. And even today I find myself to be a sky watcher. I love to look at the sky and see the beauty in the clouds, the sunshine, the sunset. And I must be candid with you, most of the most memorable things in my life didn't have anything to do with the purchase of things. And I'm really grateful for that because it enabled me over the years to appreciate things that it took no um, finances to attain. And as I said before, my childhood friend, Lionel Harris, you know, um, is still a friend. And that's important. Now, we're not talking to each other every day. When I don't know what's going on in his house. I don't know how much his bills are. None of that. I just know uh, occasionally we get a chance to talk. Sometimes when I am doing a program or something like that, he'll help, he'll come out. And even when his health has not been what it used to be, you know, um, we still can sit down and talk about things. Um, like after high school, he went into the service, and to him and all veterans, thank you so much for your service. You were young in your prime, and some of you have sustained injuries, whether they are physical or mental, that you obtain protecting us here in the United States. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, Pastor Cat.
You welcome.
uh, God bless you. You have grown into a young woman that knows how to duck.
I had practice. Okay. Lots of practice. Nobody could beat me in a limbo competition. I know how the Matrix move came from me. I want my piece. I want my cut. I had the Matrix to let that bird get. But anyway, I'm just joking. This has been a great day. I'm excited about what next Saturday will bring. Sister Stephanie, as always, I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate you allowing us to ask those probing questions, those questions that make you say, I ain't thought about that in years. So this is Let's Talk. This is our Black History edition. This month we have been focusing in, honing in on Sister Stephanie and trying to get to know her in a way that none of us ever expected to or dreamed to know. She had chickens.
Listen.
And they didn't stay in a chicken coop. They stayed in a tree.
How they say
Who knew?
free range. They were free range.
They was she won a cut. She was the first one with the free range chicken. Ain't nobody had a chicken free ranging down a gravel road. Okay. You ever had a chicken get kidnapped by another chicken? No, I know you didn't. Sister Stephanie did. Mm-hmm.
I do want to add this before we go. You asked me about, a lot of things, but I don't have a favorite musician, but I do have a favorite candy bar.
Okay. What's your favorite candy bar, girl?
It's
Might be able to get
Hershey's with almonds.
Hershey with almond if you're watching. Sister Stephanie like your chocolate.
Oh, that's right.
I
have been to Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Yes. Talk your talk, sister.
Hershey's chocolate.
Sure did. Did you know that?
And I have to remind everyone, for those of us born in the 50s, we have most of us have a sweet tooth, and it was from the cradle, because our formula back then, they didn't have Similac and all of that. Our formula back then was pet milk with K-Rose syrup.
K-Rose syrup, which they used to make pecan pies.
Yeah. That's, you boiled it together. That was our formula. So
that's syrup.
Huh? Which was
that's they use that K-Rose, some people, not all, use it to make popcorn balls.
That's right. That's the one.
Some people use it to make candy apples.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
So you telling me that they was mixing that up and putting it in a glass cup
bottle,
sorry, I ain't birthing no babies, to give it to a baby to here sip on this? Well, y'all around there, y'all was sugary sugar.
We was infants.
They might as well for teething, did they give you a sugar cane? I mean, a stalk of sugar cane?
We did. That was a treat. Not a stalk, one knot, between the two knots.
I'm being silly. I'm being real silly. I say it's for teeth.
I know. I came up during the time when every young man, every boy in elementary school had a penknife. And every girl, would go to a guy because you knew he had a knife, to do things. So one of the things that they really got good at was peeling that sugar cane with their little penknives. But they did all kind of stuff with the penknife, yes.
So you went to a place called Hershey, Pennsylvania. You just decided one day, I'm gonna go to Hershey, Pennsylvania. How did this happen?
Well, we were living in New York.
And
your dad wanted to drive home to Baton Rouge. And he got out the maps and he was mapping off the the route. Back then, there was real maps that you folded and unfolded, and they had to get just right.
Yes. With no Google.
Yeah.
Or was it Waze?
That was
all these different Yahoo Maps.
Yeah, that was before the trip ticket. But yeah. So
I
know. In this, he was, trying to map out the way, and I saw her, Pennsylvania, And I said, "Oh, we go through Pennsylvania?" And he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna go through Pennsylvania. You can't get home from where we were at the time, um, from without going through Pennsylvania." So I said,
People ain't know you. She done lived in other places. She didn't just live in Louisiana. She's traveled. Continue.
I
Map.
said, I said, can we go to Hershey? And he said, it's kind of out of the way. He said, Hershey? And I said, yeah, where they make the chocolate. And he said, because he was born in the 50s too.
To say, all you need to say, you had me at chocolate.
But you know what? He did not have a sweet tooth. So,
Not really.
but anyway, he said, yeah, sure. And that's what we did. And I knew
So
that there was I didn't know if the Hershey, Pennsylvania was named after the chocolate or if the chocolate was named after Hershey, Pennsylvania. I didn't know that much. But we did go. Part of the place was closed. I can't remember because it's a whole city, a village, a place.
I was going to say, does it remind you of Willy Wonka Chocolate Factory when you got there? Were there Oompa Loompas? Did it smell like
It
chocolate?
smelled
Or
just like
trees? Did trees have chocolate growing from it? I mean, give us a tea now, because I ain't been to Hershey, Pennsylvania. Let me know.
uh we really on a tangent here because I was gonna back up to something else, but it smells like chocolate.
Oh,
And
wow.
at the time, because this was in the 80s, at the time, they had glass where you could see people working. You could see
Okay.
chocolate being made, bars being
Mm.
made in different stages. They didn't show you everything, but
Hmm.
it was a museum like tour, you know.
Wow.
So
Samples?
no samples. No.
Dang it. Dang it. How am I know if it's different tasting fresh versus in the stove? So it's not like the world of Coke. You couldn't taste chocolate from different areas.
No.
Africa chocolate,
Uh-uh.
India chocolate. Dang it.
It was
Oh
more
man.
that's
No, no chocolate cocoa.
it was more like a museum.
Got you.
So anyway, to jump off of Hershey, Pennsylvania, I just want to tell you quickly that um because we kind of all have a sweet tooth in my group anyway. We had the candy machines out for recess, and back then, of course, kids actually went to recess, and they actually played and played rough, played tough, played. And it took the candy machine took a nickel, and in the candy machine, my favorites were the all day sucker, which actually
Okay.
would last all day, and any of the sugars, sugar baby, sugar mama, sugar daddy, all of them sugar candies I absolutely
Really?
love, which is like caramel.
I know exactly what I didn't know that was one of your
Oh
favorites.
yeah, those were my
I know
favorite.
it's Lewis's favorite.
All the sugar family, and of
Yeah.
course I liked the sugar babies the best because you could eat during recess and wrap it up tight to get it to your book sack, and you might be able to sneak one in your mouth during class and not get caught. Just keep it, don't chew. You just got that sweetness just going on.
Hold it in your mouth. Sitting on your teeth, just working the cavity engine right there. Right? Problem area. All y'all that got problem areas, y'all was holding that candy back there from the teacher. I know. Oh, I know.
Those were the days. And I want to tell you this, and then we're gonna, I guess, bring it to a close.
Okay.
But um, I this is an important lesson in economics. My best friend back then was Cheryl Lafayette, and her
Mm.
mom would give her 7 cents a day for school, so she could In the
Mhm.
mornings, you could, uh, they didn't have school breakfast. So, but what you could do was get a carton of milk and they would throw in a cookie, homemade cookie.
Okay.
So for kids that didn't get a chance to get a get a breakfast, if they, got to school and had some money, then they could get milk and cookies first thing in the morning.
You gonna hype these kids up on sugar before they sit down,
Nobody
before
didn't
you done
know.
said the Pledge of Allegiance. You done gave them a pound of sugar, followed by syrup water juice. Because you said this is just back then, they was still they were mixing it in the back. Some Caro syrup and some pet milk. Here y'all go. Here you
No,
go.
no, 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 not for
Oh,
school. At
oh,
school,
praise
they
him.
had a carton of milk, a regular vitamin D
Oh, okay. It wasn't no
Morton's.
mixologists back there mixing, making making the sugary syrup called milk.
That was a formula. That was an infant formula. That was
Oh, okay. I don't know why
infant
I'm trying to make
formula.
it everybody milk. Okay.
Instead of Similac or Infamil or one of those, our formula you had to make at home. And it was made of syrup and pet milk.
When we're
Okay.
talking about
And
Black history, if you're joining the conversation, Sister Stephanie is our person that we're focusing on, and she is reflecting about when she was an infant, what the formula mix was. It was no Infamil, it was no Similac. Back then, they had to create and make their own formula, and the recipe was pet milk and Karo syrup. Who knew?
that,
We know now because we're talking about it here on Let's Talk with Stephanie Anthony, Black History.
yeah. So I've lost my thought.
At school, they gave you
Cookies.
cookies and milk
Cookies
for
and
breakfast.
milk was the thing that you could get for, I believe, uh 2 cent. Yeah, I think it was 2 cent that you could get cookies and milk. So my daddy gave me a nickel every day. Every morning, he tied a nickel into my uh this is Sister Claudia re-emphasizing uh re-emphasizing stuff that infamil. Anyway,
Yeah. If you're joining us, we were doing our Black History segment, and this month we're focusing on our host with the most, Sister Stephanie, learning all the layers of her, who she is, who made her, who she wants to be, who she's going to be. We're not done yet. The story is not at the end, but it may be ending today. But we're gonna leave you with a little cliffhanger. Who knew? Who knew all the things that we learned today? She was bullied. She they didn't have formula back then. They had to create their own formula. She was introduced to classical music through a program that was created from the president, uh, Kennedy. And that's a memory that still stands, positive memory that still sits with her today. And all of these things created the woman that we see sitting before us today, Sister Stephanie, the host of Let's Talk. She's so many other things, and it's so interesting to learn. She's a bird trainer. But anyway, I am so excited about what has been happening, the shows that have been recorded this month through Facebook, through YouTube. If you're joining the conversation, we're like, what? I didn't know this. What else I don't know? There are recordings you can go back to and watch from last Saturday and the Saturday before. Every Saturday this month, we've been sitting down and having these intimate conversations just to see who you are. What is the core of you? Who are you? What are you? What do you want to do? And we're talking to Stephanie Anthony today on Let's Talk. And I'm so excited and grateful to have this opportunity to allow you the space to be able to just freely talk about who you are.
well, as I was about to say, um 2 cent for the milk and cookies each morning. And my friend got 7 cents. My dad always gave me a nickel. He tied it up in a handkerchief, and back then, every girl carried a handkerchief. Kleenex were they hadn't made the Kleenex personal packs. I don't know if they had Kleenex. I don't remember. We had those brown paper towels in school, but um, they he would tie it in there so it wouldn't get lost. I could put it in my pocket, and so I went to him and I said, "Daddy, I need more money. I want to have."
Like, come here, let me have a conversation with you. Come, lean in close. I need more money. I'm talking about what you did.
And Daddy said, I explained the whole thing to him about the milk and the cookies, and that then I would have 3 cents left over, and you couldn't put pennies in the candy machine. So, and I needed more money so that I could have milk and cookies in the morning, and at recess I could have candy. And Daddy said, "Look like you need to make a choice."
Boom. He made you think, like, which one is more important? Candy in the afternoon or breakfast in the morning? Choose ye this day. Yeah.
Well,
Well, it looked like we lost connection with her, and that seems like a great cliffhanger. Oh, she's back. I was about to say, you like, well,
needless to say, the every time I decided, okay, I was going to choose milk and cookies, that morning they would send the milk, no cookies, and remind us by intercom that there would be no cookies and that cookies were a bonus anyway. Our 2 cents was paying for the carton of milk. And there I would be sitting with a carton of vaguely
no
cold.
sugar.
Because you remember now they had right, no sugar, just milk. And it wasn't ice cold by the time it got to you. You know, by the time it got
It wasn't ice cold, and they used to reach it out the freezer, be like, what is this set on? 70? Because this is sweating, and you reaching it to me out of the container that's supposed to keep it cold. Anyway, I appreciate you giving us the laughs, giving us the smiles, giving us the clutch pearl moments, and the moments of just dropping the mic. Parents had to teach their children, early that, money doesn't grow on trees. Let's start there. And sometimes you gotta make a choice, boo. I gave you this money. You going to school, you learning math, do the math. Either you're gonna have cookies and no milk, or milk and no cookies, or you're gonna have what you know is gonna be in the machine because you can pass it. Them sugar bears. Choose you this day because you ain't getting no more money out of me, look good. I'm just saying. Anyway, we're talking about something that, to me means something. It may mean something to you. It may make you think, may make you reflect. You may be like, look, Sister Catherine, this is so good. I got to get on it. I want to tell stuff I remember. Hey, give us a message. Give us a call. Give us a text if you got our number. Don't give it out, though. And we will get in on the conversation and allow you to have these discussions because it's just so amazing what you learn from a simple conversation. And that's what we're doing today. It's Black History Month, and I appreciate the opportunity to be the host today of Let's Talk. I don't take it lightly. It's a heavy hat to carry, and I thank Sister Stephanie for doing it with such grace and such elegance. I want people to remember all of her and not just some of her, to know part of her is to do an injustice. And sometimes the only way to learn more about a person is just to have a conversation. It doesn't need to have any direction. It could just seem like we just in a car and you just both just letting it drive itself. But we learned something. Somebody got to drive. Somebody got to hold the wheel. So who's holding the wheel? Sister Stephanie. We thank you so much for the opportunity to sit with you today, to talk about all of you, some of you, part of you, people that inspired you, people that influenced you. It's Black History Month, and you are a part of Black history. here in Baton Rouge, here in our hearts, and and all over the world. I know that you are very, very, very uh, uh, a person that you don't want all the spotlight on you. But yes, people know you. You were a wide boo, and I'm sorry, I can't take that back.
I wanted to give a shout out
Please.
to uh, my brothers and sisters in Christ in Pakistan, where it's very difficult, to be a Christian in a place where there are very one less than 1% of the population is Christian,
Yeah.
and um, we met on the internet, and they became a part of our Bible study. And anyway, I want to let you know and to let them know that how appreciative I was when one year they went and bought a cake, which
Ha!
is a real treat,
Yes.
on my birthday.
Yes.
They sang happy birthday and ate the cake, and all the kids were like, they thought that was just the best thing ever. And so, when you said at first, when you said, "Oh, you're known all over the world," I was like, "Psst, and then I thought about they were, like, we're gonna sing happy birthday to Mama Stephanie, and there that white look like cake with the
Whipped
uh
cream.
what do you call it? Coconut.
Oh, coconut cake. Oh, there you go, Keith.
Coconut sprinkled
All
all
right.
on top.
Who can say they had somebody sing happy birthday to them from Pakistan? Not me. Mm. Then they bought a cake, blew out the candles, cut it up, and let everybody have a piece of cake
They
in
didn't
your
have
name.
no candles. I don't think that's a part of their culture, but the kids, they was like, cake, cake,
Mama Stephanie. Mama Stephanie. Woohoo! Yeah.
It's been fun talking on Let's Talk in this format. We hope that you will share, comment, and that the conversation will brew and multiply as we go forward. God bless you and keep you. Till next time, let's talk.